They say love is supposed to be the most powerful force in the world. It's supposed to lift you, inspire you, make you better. But let's be real, sometimes love feels less like a blessing and more like a job you didn't sign up for, with no pay, no benefits, and a boss who doesn't respect your overtime. We grow up hearing that love conquers all, that you're supposed to fight for it no matter what. But nobody tells you that sometimes the strongest fight is knowing when to stop swinging. Nobody admits that the real power move isn't clinging on until your knuckles bleed. It's letting go with enough dignity to keep your soul intact. Walking away doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you failed, and it definitely doesn't mean you didn't love hard enough. Walking away means you finally realized your peace is worth more than their excuses, your time is worth more than their patterns, and your self-respect is worth more than playing savior in a story that was never going to have a happy ending. Sometimes the bravest thing you'll ever do in love is the quietest, turning around and walking out the door, and knowing your value in love is like knowing the price of gold. If you don't, somebody will come along and convince you your worth is closer to scrap metal. The crazy part is most of us don't even realize we're undervaluing ourselves until we've been taken for granted, manipulated, or stretched so thin that the reflection in the mirror doesn't look like us anymore. Relationships can be beautiful when they're balanced, but the second you forget your value, love can become a discount store where you keep handing out pieces of yourself for free. The problem with that is simple: people will always take what you allow. Love in its truest form is supposed to be mutual. It's supposed to be a fair trade, not a clearance sale. But when someone forgets their own value, they start accepting conditions, treatment, and behaviors that don't align with their worth. Think about how many times people stay in situations where they're constantly being lied to, disrespected, or neglected, all because they think love requires endless tolerance. That's not love, that's self-abandonment dressed up as loyalty. And the longer you stay in that place, the more your value gets eroded. You start second-guessing yourself. You start questioning whether you're asking for too much when in reality you were asking for the bare minimum all along. When you truly know your value, you understand that being alone is not a punishment, it's a reset. Too many people stay locked in toxic patterns because they're scared of being lonely, but loneliness is temporary. Being undervalued in love, that's a slow death of the spirit. Knowing your value means you'd rather spend time building yourself up than letting someone else tear you down while calling it passion. It's not arrogance, it's self-respect. And self-respect doesn't bend just because your heart feels something. There's this dangerous narrative out there that suffering in silence is somehow noble, that sticking it out no matter how bad it gets is proof of real love. That's not strength, that's conditioning. Real strength is recognizing that your love, your energy, and your presence are worth something. And if someone can't meet you with the respect and effort you deserve, you walk away, not because you stopped loving them, but because you started loving yourself more. It takes courage to admit when a relationship no longer matches your value. That courage is often mistaken for coldness, but in truth, it's clarity. The thing about value is, it's not just about what others see, it's about what you demand. If you treat yourself like you're priceless, you set a standard. People either rise to meet it or fall away, and either outcome is good for you. But if you treat yourself like you're replaceable, don't be surprised when people treat you the same. Relationships mirror back the worth you project. Someone who knows their value isn't afraid to set boundaries. Boundaries aren't walls, they're gates. They let the right kind of love in while keeping the wrong kind out. And every time you enforce a boundary, you're reinforcing your value. A person who knows their value doesn't confuse attention with affection or chaos with passion. They don't settle for temporary highs that leave permanent scars. They understand that love should add to their life, not subtract from it. And when it doesn't, they don't make excuses for the other person. They make a decision for themselves. That decision often looks like walking away, but what it really is walking back to yourself, to your peace, to your worth. Peace is one of those things you don't really recognize the full value of until it's gone. When you're in love, especially in the early stages, chaos can sometimes feel like passion. The arguments, the dramatic makeups, the highs and lows, they trick you into thinking the roller coaster is proof of intensity. But intensity isn't the same as intimacy, and chaos isn't the same as love. Over time, chaos wears you down. It chips away at your energy, your focus, even your health. You wake up tense, you go to sleep uneasy, and eventually you forget what it even feels like to just breathe without pressure. That's when you start realizing peace is more than a luxury, it's a necessity. The truth is, peace is underrated in relationships because it doesn't scream for attention the way chaos does. Peace is quiet, consistent, and steady. Chaos is loud, messy, and dramatic. In a world where people confuse noise with meaning, chaos can trick you into staying longer than you should. But peace, real peace, is the foundation of lasting love. It's that steady presence that allows you to actually grow together instead of constantly putting out fires. The absence of peace in a relationship doesn't just mean conflict. It means confusion, Misalignment and a constant sense of imbalance that eats away at the connection. Think about how many people stay in chaotic relationships because they mistake drama for proof of love. They say things like, if we didn't fight, it wouldn't mean we care. That's backwards. Constant fighting isn't a sign of passion, it's a sign of dysfunction. When you have to spend more time recovering from arguments than actually enjoying each other, you're not building love, you're surviving it. And surviving love is the fastest way to kill your spirit. Peace, on the other hand, gives you the mental and emotional stability to actually enjoy your partner, to plan, to laugh, to dream. Peace makes space for love to flourish. Chaos leaves it gasping for air. When you put peace over chaos, you start realizing that not every call deserves an answer, not every insult deserves a defense, and not every fight deserves your participation. You begin to recognize that the highest form of strength isn't proving your point, it's protecting your energy. Chaos thrives on your reaction. Peace thrives on your restraint. And once you understand that, you stop letting people drag you into storms that aren't yours to weather. There's also a financial, physical, and spiritual cost to chaos. Constant stress elevates your blood pressure, wrecks your sleep, drains your creativity, and leaves you irritable with everyone else in your life. You can't hustle effectively. You can't parent effectively. You can't even love yourself effectively when you're living in a war zone disguised as romance. Peace, in contrast, fuels everything. It gives you clarity to make better decisions, energy to pursue your goals, and stability to actually feel present in your own life. It's not just about avoiding fights, it's about creating an environment where both people can be their best selves without fear of being torn down. Choosing peace over chaos doesn't mean avoiding all conflict. Every relationship is disagreements. It means refusing to live in constant turmoil. It means demanding solutions instead of settling for cycles. It's not about being passive, it's about being intentional. If someone can't communicate without destroying, if they can't disagree without disrespecting, if they can't love without controlling, then you already know the choice you need to make. When you value peace, you stop romanticizing chaos, you stop confusing pain for proof, and you stop letting turbulence masquerade as passion. Peace becomes the standard, not the exception, and when you experience it real stable, nourishing peace, you wonder why you ever accepted less. Distance has a way of showing you things you couldn't see up close. When you're in the middle of a relationship, especially one that's heavy with emotions, it's like standing right in front of a giant painting. You're too close to notice the full picture. All you see are brushstrokes and colors, maybe even flaws that you obsess over or little details that make you lose perspective. Distance is what allows you to step back, take in the whole thing, and decide whether the artwork is beautiful or just a mess of paint. That's what happens in love. Sometimes you need space to understand what's really happening, who the other person really is, and more importantly, who you really are inside it. When you're wrapped up in the daily cycle of a relationship, clarity gets clouded. You're busy reacting to moods, navigating arguments, chasing moments of affection, and dealing with the constant push and pull. It feels normal because you're in it every day, but normal doesn't always mean healthy. Taking distance breaks that rhythm. Suddenly, the patterns you overlooked before become obvious. You realize the apologies weren't change, just repetition. You notice the affection wasn't consistent, it was conditional. You start piecing together what you couldn't admit when you were blinded by proximity. Distance clears the fog because it removes the emotional noise. Another thing distance does is give you back your identity. In a relationship, especially an unhealthy one, you can lose yourself without even realizing it. Your wants, your needs, your priorities slowly bend to accommodate someone else's demands. And because it happens gradually, you don't notice the shift until you're exhausted, resentful, or confused about why you don't feel like yourself anymore. When you create distance, even just temporarily, you reconnect with your own voice. You remember what it feels like to wake up and not immediately brace yourself for tension. You rediscover hobbies, ambitions, or friendships that may have been buried under the weight of compromise. That rediscovery is clarity in its purest form. It's not just seeing the relationship clearly, it's seeing yourself clearly too. People underestimate the power of silence. When you step back and cut off constant interaction, the quiet can feel uncomfortable at first. You want to reach out, you want to fill the space. You want to go back to the chaos because chaos feels familiar. But if you hold the line, silence starts talking. It shows you whether you missed the person or just the routine. It reveals whether your heart is still invested or if your mind was just addicted to the cycle. Silence has a way of stripping away illusions because when there's no conversation, no text, no physical presence to distract you, all that's left is truth. Distance also exposes priorities. If you pull back and the other person makes no effort to meet you halfway, that tells you everything you need to know. Clarity isn't just about your perspective, it's about seeing their actions without the filter of excuses. Love is not supposed to be proven only when you threaten to leave. If someone only shows up when you withdraw, it means they were comfortable taking you for granted until the risk of losing you appeared. That realization is painful, but it's powerful. Most people fear distance because they think it's the end, but in reality, distance is a test. A relationship that's solid can handle space because space doesn't break bonds, it strengthens them. If love is real, distance creates appreciation. If love is fake, distance reveals neglect. Either way, you get clarity. And clarity is always worth more than confusion. Distance is not about running away. It's about stepping back far enough to see the truth, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Respect is the backbone of love, the thing that keeps everything standing when passion fades, when attraction gets tested, and when real life starts demanding patience. Without respect, love turns fragile. No matter how strong it looks on the outside, respect is what determines how two people speak to each other in anger, how they handle disappointment, how they show up for one another when things aren't convenient. You can claim to love someone, but if respect isn't there, the love becomes toxic, suffocating, and unbalanced. That's why it's non-negotiable, because once it's gone, everything else starts to collapse. The danger is that people often mistake comfort for respect. Just because you've been with someone for years, or just because you know each other's routines, doesn't mean respect is present. Familiarity can trick you into believing stability exists, but stability without respect is just stagnation. Respect is active. It's the conscious choice to honor the other person's feelings, time, and individuality every day. Without that, you end up with something that looks like love, but feels more like a trap. Disrespect doesn't always come in obvious forms. Sometimes it's subtle, and that's what makes it dangerous. It's the small dismissals when you share an idea, the way your boundaries get brushed off as overreacting, the lack of acknowledgement for the effort you put in. Those little cracks in respect grow over time, and if you ignore them, they eventually break the entire foundation. People who love but don't respect you will apologize after they hurt you, but they'll repeat the same behavior because deep down, they don't see you as equal. They might care for you, but they don't value your dignity, and love without dignity is just dependency. When you know respect is non-negotiable, you stop excusing patterns that devalue you. You stop settling for someone who raises their voice at you every time they're upset, who talks down to you in front of others, who ignores your needs until it's convenient for them. You stop justifying behaviors by saying that's just how they are, because how someone is doesn't give them the right to treat you less than what you deserve. Respect sets the baseline for how love operates. Without it, communication becomes toxic, trust becomes fragile, and affection becomes inconsistent. Respect isn't just about how they treat you. It's also about how you treat yourself within the relationship. If you don't demand respect, if you tolerate being overlooked or dismissed, you're signaling that it's acceptable. People will rise to the level of boundaries you enforce. Respecting yourself means walking away when those boundaries are violated, even if your heart is still attached. That's where the strength comes in, not in enduring mistreatment, but in refusing to let your love blind you to the absence of respect. The presence of respect transforms love. It creates safety, not just physical, but emotional safety. It means you can be vulnerable without fear of being mocked or dismissed. It means you can disagree without being torn down. It means you can express needs without being labeled as needy. Respect allows individuality to thrive inside a relationship rather than being smothered by control or manipulation. It keeps both people whole instead of one person dominating while the other diminishes. Respect is non-negotiable because once you compromise on it, everything else becomes negotiable. Your self-worth, your peace, your boundaries. And once you start bargaining with those, you're not in love, you're in survival mode. Too many people cling to relationships because they fear starting over, but starting over is better than staying where your respect is disposable. At the end of the day, respect doesn't ask for perfection, it asks for consistency. It's the daily practice of valuing the person you love, and if that's missing, nothing else can fill the gap. Walking away is often painted as failure, as if leaving a relationship means you didn't fight hard enough or love deep enough. But the truth is, sometimes walking away is the very thing that saves you from wasting years in something that has no future. It's not the end of your story, it's the opening of a new chapter. When you let go of what isn't right, you're not just leaving a person, you're making space for opportunities, growth, and connections that can actually align with who you are becoming. Holding on to the wrong thing blocks the right things from finding you. Walking away clears the path. So many people stay in relationships out of fear of the unknown. The what-if questions become chains. What if I never find someone else? What if I regret leaving? What if they change after I go? Fear makes people settle for less than they deserve, but the cost of staying is always greater than the fear of leaving. Walking away opens doors because it shows the universe, God, or whatever you believe in, that you're serious about not accepting what doesn't honor you. It's like clearing out clutter from your house. As long as it's packed with junk, there's no room for new furniture. The same goes for your heart. If it's full of unresolved chaos, disrespect, or neglect, there's no space for love that's healthy and real. Walking away also opens the door to rediscover yourself. In relationships, especially ones that aren't balanced, people often lose sight of their own goals and identity. You start compromising so much that you shrink parts of yourself just to keep the peace. When you leave, there's a painful adjustment at first, but eventually you remember the parts of you that got buried. You remember the dreams you put on hold, the friendships you neglected, the passions you left collecting dust. That rediscovery is like breathing air again after being underwater too long. You realize the relationship wasn't just holding you back emotionally, it was holding you back in every area of life. Another door that opens when you walk away is the door to real standards. Once you've been through a situation where you stayed too long, you learn to recognize red flags faster. You learn to set boundaries and mean them. You learn that compromise is healthy, but self-betrayal is not. That awareness becomes a filter. The next time someone approaches you with half-effort, with disrespect, or with inconsistency, you don't entertain it because you already know where that road leads. Walking away once teaches you to walk away quicker the next time, and that saves years of your life. People often think of walking away only in terms of losing love, but it's really about gaining freedom. Freedom from cycles that go nowhere, freedom from false promises, freedom from the weight of constantly proving your worth. That freedom is not empty, it's full of possibility. It opens the door to peace, to healthier relationships, and most importantly, to self-respect. Because every time you choose yourself over a situation that diminishes you, you reinforce the truth that you are worthy of more. That truth becomes the foundation for the next chapter of your life. Walking away doesn't erase the love you had. It just acknowledges that love isn't enough. Without growth, respect, and reciprocity, it hurts. Yes, but that pain is temporary. What comes after? The clarity, the strength, the new opportunities, that's lasting. Walking away opens doors not just to better relationships, but to a better version of you. One who no longer settles for survival when they deserve fulfillment. Strength is often portrayed as loud, aggressive, and visible. People imagine strength as shouting back in an argument, slamming doors, or putting on a tough exterior so nobody thinks you're weak. But the kind of strength that actually sustains you in love and in life isn't loud at all. It's quiet, steady, and often invisible to the outside world. Quiet strength is walking away without making a scene. It's holding your dignity when every part of you wants to explode. It's choosing peace over proving a point. That kind of strength doesn't look dramatic, but it's the kind that changes your life. When you think about love, most of the chaos comes from people trying to outshout each other, to win arguments, to prove who's right and who's wrong. But winning the noise doesn't mean winning the relationship. Quiet strength is the refusal to let your emotions be manipulated into a circus. It's knowing that the power isn't in how loud you get, but in how calmly you decide. It's being able to say to yourself, I deserve better, and then acting on that truth without begging someone else to recognize it. That's strength in its purest form because it's rooted in self-control, not in theatrics. Quiet strength is misunderstood because people think if you don't fight for something, you don't care about it. But there's a difference between fighting for love and fighting in love. Fighting for love means protecting it when it's real and mutual. Fighting in love means battling endlessly to keep something alive that's already dying. Quiet strength recognizes the difference. It doesn't mean you don't feel the pain. It means you don't let the pain dictate your decisions. It means you walk away even when you want to stay because you know staying would cost you more than leaving ever will. There's also a patience to quiet strength. It's the ability to endure discomfort without panicking, to let silence stretch without rushing to fill it, to sit with your emotions instead of running back just to avoid feeling lonely. Loud strength needs recognition. It needs someone to see the struggle, to clap for the effort. Quiet strength doesn't need an audience. It's internal. It's the conversation you have with yourself at midnight when no one else is around. The decision to choose self-respect over temporary relief. The discipline to not answer the phone when you know the call will drag you back into chaos. Quiet strength also shows up in consistency. It's not about one big dramatic move. It's about the daily choices that reinforce your worth. It's the way you carry yourself, the way you hold your boundaries, the way you don't flinch when someone tries to test them. People with quiet strength don't announce it, but you feel it when you're around them. It's in their calmness, in their refusal to be rushed, in the steady way they move forward, even when their heart is heavy. What makes quiet strength so powerful in love is that it breaks cycles. Loud strength usually feeds cycles. Yelling back fuels more yelling. Chasing fuels more running, proving fuels more disrespect. Quiet strength, on the other hand, ends it. When you no longer react to the bait, the cycle collapses. When you no longer accept less than respect, the dynamic shifts. When you no longer beg for love that hurts you, the healing begins. Quiet strength is disruptive in the best way because it refuses to play the same game that left you drained. It's easy to confuse silence with weakness, but silence can be the loudest statement you ever make. It's not about giving up, it's about leveling up. It's saying with your actions what words can't capture, that your dignity is not up for debate. Quiet strength doesn't look impressive to outsiders, but it transforms everything inside of you. And once you learn to move with that kind of strength, you stop needing to prove yourself because your peace becomes the proof. At the end of the day, love isn't proven by how much pain you can endure or how long you can hold on while losing yourself in the process. Love is proven by how much it helps you grow, how much peace it brings to your life, and how deeply it respects your worth. Walking away doesn't erase the love that was there. It just says that love without respect, without peace, without reciprocity is not enough to keep you trapped. Walking away is not quitting. It's graduating. It's choosing to evolve rather than revolve around the same tired cycle. Strength isn't always about fighting harder. Sometimes it's about knowing when the fight is no longer worth your spirit. Sometimes the loudest declaration of love for yourself is the quiet act of leaving behind what doesn't serve you. So remember this, walking away is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's not the end of your story. It's the beginning of a better chapter. And one day, you'll look back and realize that the strongest move you ever made in love was the moment you chose yourself.